If you're a dentist performing endodontic therapy in everyday clinical practice and canal location is something that you find very difficult to do, then this video is for you. If you're new to the channel, my name is Siju Jacob. I've been a private practitioner for the past 25 years in Bangalore and Dubai. I've been using a surgical microscope in my private practice for the past 20 years, and I've been teaching dentists how to use a surgical microscope in everyday clinical practice for more than a decade. If you're a general dentist who finds locating root canals a challenge in everyday clinical practice, then this video is perfect for you. I'll share with you some common techniques that we endodontists use to locate canals in everyday clinical practice. Before we begin, if you are a clinician who practices endodontics and is often confused with the large amount of contradicting reports out there with regards to what works in endodontics versus what doesn't work in endodontics, I've written a small article which you can download for free. Please check the link in the description below. It sort of summarizes based on the available information as to what are the things that really works in endodontics versus what are the things that don't work based on the evidence that we have. Do check out the link in the description below. You can download it for free. Now let's look at some of the techniques that you can employ to locate canals in everyday clinical practice. Well, the first technique is radiographs. This is the tried and tested technique. We look at radiographs and it straight away gives you a clue if you've missed a canal or not, how many canals are there. And one of the techniques that is suggested is it's better to take 3 different radiographs, a straight one, and off-angle radiograph, a straight one, a mesial angle, and a distal angle put together will give you a definitive information as to how many canals are there and whether or not you've missed any canals. So if you look at this case, 3 different angles, the straight, distal, and mesial put together tells us that this maxillary first molar has 2 roots and not 3. So this is a good example of how we can use radiographs to get information regarding the number of canals. Here again, you can see this is a premolar that somebody's treated and somebody's filled 1 root, and looking at the radiograph, you can see how the existing canal is off the center and there is a missed canal here, and it's the same here as well. You can see in the radiograph, straight away by looking at the radiograph, one can tell that there is a missed canal. This mandibular molar, you can see a radix here, and all these are examples of radiographs giving us information regarding missed canals. However, radiographs used to be the gold standard before. Now it is cone beam CT, and once you have a cone beam CT, it gives us far more accurate information rather than just radiographs alone. Now you look at this tooth, you can see how the cone beam CT gives us more accurate information. You have a premolar here with a missed canal. The cone beam CT not only tells us that there is a missed canal, it also tells us where that missed canal is in relationship to the filled canal. So in this particular tooth, you can see the canal is lingual to the filled canal. So the cone beam CT is much more accurate compared to the radiograph. Here again, you can see the mesiobuccal root, the distal buccal root in a treated maxillary first molar, and the cone beam CT tells us that there is a missed canal, which is the missed MB2 with a separate portal of exit. So cone beam CTs are the gold standard, which we would recommend. In fact, we take it in virtually every case these days because it's far more easier when you have all the knowledge regarding the number of canals so that you can plan your access cavities better than without a cone beam CT. Third technique is color variation. So when you are performing endodontic therapy and you look at the tooth surface after you've performed your access cavity and you look at the pulpal floor, the pulpal floor will have certain characteristics. So if you look at this tooth over here, you can see here, that's the pulpal floor, and you can see the pulpal floor here. It has a different contrast to the surrounding monochromatic dentine. So the floor meets the dentine. There is a difference in the color. So here you can see the pulpal floor is more darkish grayish, whereas the monochromatic dentine here is more whitish. And when you are looking for canals, they are usually at the junction of the monochromatic dentine and the pulpal floor. So for example, you can see the canal here. You are not going to find canals here. If you drill down these whitish portions, you are going to perforate. So when we are looking for canals, we are looking at the junction of the pulpal floor along with the monochromatic dentine that you see on the side. So that's how we can use color changes. Here again is an example. You can see here the darker pulpal floor here and the dentine on the side, which is more vital. So when we are searching for canals, we are looking at the junction of this darker area along with this whiter area. So here you can see when you trough along this area, we find the MB1, MB2, and the MB3. By the way, all these images are taken through the surgical microscope. If you are a general dentist and you feel that this is something that you cannot do in your own practice, think again. Have a look at the online course that I've created called Microscopic Dentistry Simplified. It's specifically made with the general dentist in mind. So if you are a practicing general dentist who wants to learn how to use the surgical microscope in your private practice and take pictures like this in your own private practice, then do check out the link in the description below and have a look at the Microscopic Dentistry Simplified course. Who knows, maybe you can buy a microscope in your own private practice. So the next technique that could help you locate canals in everyday clinical practice is something called the white line concept. Now, when we say white line, we are looking at necrotic debris like this. After you've prepared the tooth surface, you've located canals. Many times you would find necrotic debris. And when you trough along this necrotic debris, that necrotic debris is actually a remnant of pulpal tissue which was left behind, and when you trough along that debris, it will often lead you to the underlying canal, as you see in this case. That's the MB1 and that's the MB2. So we can use white line as a guideline to help us trace missed canals. The next technique that you can use is something called the red line concept. What we mean by red line is vital pulp tissue can give you a clue as to where the canal is. This is especially relevant in multiple canals where you are looking for additional canals. As you can see here, this is a maxillary first molar where we have located the MB1 and you can see pulp tissue here. So we use that pulp tissue as a clue to trough along those lines there. And when you do, it often leads us into the second canal or MB2. So that's an example of using the red line concept or using vital tissue, which is reddish in color, as a clue to lead you into finding extra canals. The next technique you can use is something called champagne effect. When you place a drop of sodium hypochlorite into the pulp chamber, sodium hypochlorite interacts with vital pulp tissue and causes some sort of bubbles, which is what we call the champagne effect. Sodium hypochlorite interacts with organic tissue, and you can use these bubbles as clues to look for missed canals. The next technique that you can use as a guideline to locate extra canals is something called centering. Now, centering as a technique can be used in radiographs as well as clinically after you've done your access cavity preparation and visualizing the pulpal floor. Centering can be used in different teeth. For example, the case that you see here is a maxillary premolar. And when you have a single canal in a maxillary premolar, that single canal will be in the center in proportion to the rest of the tooth. Whereas if you look at this case here, this too is a maxillary premolar and this too has a single canal, but the single canal that is located is not in the center of the tooth in proportion to the rest of the tooth. So the single canal is skewed towards one side. And when you have a situation like this where the existing canal is skewed towards one side, we should look for an additional canal here, which is what we did. We found that extra canal there. So that's how we use centricity as a clue to locate additional canal. And once you've located that second canal, then these two canals look more in proportion or more in centricity compared to the rest of the tooth. So that's how we use centricity as a clue or one of the techniques to locate extra canals. Let's look at a few more examples in other teeth as well. This is a mandibular molar, and when you find 3 canals in a mandibular molar, you will find that the mesial canals will be on either side, buccal and lingual. And if it's a single distal canal, that will usually be in the middle of these 2 mesial canals. So that's the single distal canal, which is often more broad than the mesial canals. But if you have a situation like this, where there are 2 mesial canals and the existing solitary distal canal is skewed towards one side, then there is bound to be a missed canal here, which is what we found in this particular case. So that's another example of how we use centering to aid us in locating extra canals in mandibular molars. Now let's look at some more clinical cases where we've employed these techniques to discover additional canals. Here are 2 mandibular incisors which somebody's already treated. The existing canal is out here, but when we open up this tooth for retreatment, we find that the existing canal is skewed towards one side. It lacks centricity. And once you know that it lacks centricity, we look for the additional canal here. And sure enough, that's the missed canal. And the same with the other teeth. So you can see there's 2 canals here, and the existing canal is not exactly in the center of the tooth. It's skewed towards one side, and because of that, there's an extra canal over here. Once you clean shape these canals, you can see how once the extra canal is located, now those 2 canals are more proportionate or more in centricity compared to the rest of the tooth. So that's another example. Here's another premolar where somebody is already treated and both these canals are not in the center of the tooth. When you look at the tooth root as a whole, the existing canal or the obturated canal is skewed towards one side. So again, it lacks centricity. So you can use that as a clue to look for the missed canal, which is what we did. When you go back and remove the gutta percha, you find the fill canal there, which is skewed towards one side, and we look for the missed canal on the other side. And that's the second canal, and you can see now both these canals are now far more centric than what it used to be before treatment, and we obturate it, and that's how it looks. And the other premolar as well, when you open it, you can see again we apply the law of centricity. The filled canal is skewed towards one side, and that's the unfilled canal. And when you clean shape those 2 canals, again they are more proportionate to the rest of the tooth. That's how it looks. And now you can see when you fill both these canals, these are more proportionate and more in centricity in proportion to the rest of the teeth. So that's the pre-op and that's the post-op. So again, that's an example of how we can use these principles to locate canals. Here's another example. Somebody has obturated this tooth, but the canal that is obturated is not centric, doesn't follow the law of centricity when you look at the size of the root in totality. So we take cone beam CT and we find the missed canal there, which when you go down and remove the old obturated material, again, we find that that's the obturated canal there, and skewed towards one side is the missed canal there, which we located, and then we clean, shape, and fill the missed canal as well. So that's the missed canal, which we fill. And now you can see when you look at this tooth in totality, the fill canal is more in proportion. So that's the pre-op, and this is the post-op. And like we discussed, let's look at a mandibular molar case. And as I discussed earlier, when you have a single distal canal, that single distal canal will usually be in the midpoint of the mesial canal. So you have 2 mesial canals. And if there's only 1 distal canal, this is bound to be in the middle of these 2. Whereas if you have 4 canals, then it will be in the form of a square here. So you have 2 canals. This is the third one, this is the fourth one. So this is a classic appearance of a 4-canaled molar. So when we have a tooth which someone has filled and the existing distal canal is skewed towards one side, then we should always suspect a missed canal on the other side. So this is an example where somebody had done endodontic therapy, patient had pain and reported to the clinic. So you can see 2 mesial canals and 1 distal canal. But when we go back in, you find a dense calcification here. These are the fill canals, and you have 2 mesial canals, and the solitary distal canal is not in the middle where it should be. It's skewed towards one side. And when it is skewed towards one side, we look for the missed distal canal over here. And in this case, surprisingly, once we removed the calcification, we actually found vital pulp tissue there. So once we remove the vital pulp tissue, we clean, shaped, and fill this canal as well. You can see here 4 canals, and this shows you that it's more in proportion to the rest of the tooth. It obeys the law of centricity. Once it is obturated, you can see the 4 canals here and completely in proportion to the rest of the teeth. And that's how we filled it. And this is how the post-op looks like. So that's the pre-op and this is the post-op. And you can see how these 2 canals are kind of centric to the rest of the teeth. So in a nutshell, if you are a general dentist who has difficulty locating canals, you can use some of these techniques which can help you locate canals in everyday clinical practice. Like I mentioned earlier, if you are someone who is confused with the barrage of endodontic information that is out there as to what works in endodontics and what doesn't work in endodontics, based on the available evidence, I've written a small article which you can download for free. Do check the link in the description below. You can download it, take a print out and read it at your own pace. It will give you a comprehensive knowledge about what really works in endodontics and what doesn't work in endodontics. Do check out the link in the description below. If you found information like this useful, then please don't forget to click on that subscribe button so that you can support our channel and you get notified every time I upload a new video. And if you'd like to watch more videos which I've already uploaded on this channel, then do check out some of the videos that are coming up over here. I'll see you next week with another video. Till then, take care. Thanks for watching.